My name is Precious Williams, and today I will be persuading my viewers on why a person with a mental illness should not be in jail. Have you ever heard of a person with a mental illness? Have you ever met a person with a mental illness? Do you ever know for that person to be incarcerated? If you have, do you even agree with that such behavior? This is relevant for me because most mentally ill people within the state prisons are being incarcerated and they should not be. As human beings with morality, this should be ceased. And by me persuading you of this particular issue, I hope that it changes your view on whether a person with a mental illness should be convicted or not. This is credible for me because I had a friend that suffered from a bipolar disorder and he was incarcerated in Homestead, Florida. This is also credible for me because I have done my research and my studies regarding this particular issue, and I feel as though it is quite accurate, and I am empowered to persuade my viewers of this same issue. While having a mental issue, it can cause harm to oneself as well as causing harms to others, to the people around them. And putting someone with that particular problem in the same environment as general population can become very hazardous. First, I will discuss why a person with a mental illness should not be in jail. Second, I will give two examples for when this has actually occurred. And third, I will explain why my viewers should agree with me on this topic. First, I will begin by explaining my main point. A person with a mental illness should not be in jail. 72% of women and 53% of men within the state and federal prisons have at least one inmate that suffers from a mental illness. Most people with mental illnesses should not be in jail because they don't get the proper medication that they need in order to keep them steady. While being in a state or federal prison, they also lack the special attention that is required for them. Most public health officials says that it is rather safe and more reasonable for a person to be in the comfort of their own home or either in a mental hospital rather than a jail cell, because it helps them have more control over what they're doing and it keeps them in the right state of mind. By them being locked behind bars, their mind is all out of whack and it can cause harm to the people around them. And it tends to also worsen their condition. Most people who are in jail who have mental illnesses don't even remember the crimes that they have committed. They don't even know why they're in jail, so they're just in there going crazy for no particular reason. Within criminal law, there is a statute by the names of mens rea, which means that someone who does not have the mental ability to commit a crime should not be convicted, meaning they should not be in jail. It says that the act has to be intentional and purposeful if that person is convicted, which means a person with a mental illness who does not remember what they did or even in the right mind to commit that crime, they should not be incarcerated. Most of the time, they are not even aware of what they're doing, which serves as a reason that negates this statute. The statute says if you don't have the mental stability to do so, then it means that you really did not intend to commit that particular crime because there was no actus reus. And actus reus means that the crime was voluntary, which also means that if a mentally ill inmate does something that's wrong, but their act was not intentional, it serves no purpose for them being in jail. Now that my viewers know why a person with a mental illness should not be incarcerated, next I will give you two examples where two inmates were actually incarcerated that had mental illnesses. Bipolar disorders are the most common amongst most inmates within state and federal prisons. 45 in federal prisons, 64 in the main jails, and 54 in the state and local jails all suffer from the specific bipolar disorder. A guy in Gainesville by the name of Clayton Bogg suffered from this disorder. He was arrested 3 times within a 6-year range because he was bipolar. He was locked up where he actually committed 2 felonies while being incarcerated, which means by him having a bipolar disorder, it drove him crazy. It drove him to commit these crimes that wouldn't have been committed if he was placed in a home rather than in jail. The second extreme disorder, which is most common amongst most state and local or federal prisons, is schizophrenia. In some states, people with mental illnesses who go to jail can be executed for that same reason. Just because they suffer from a mental illness does not mean that that person deserves to die. Clayton was a 74-year-old man who suffered from schizophrenia and paranoia. When he went to jail, he started to have these violent outbursts, which resulted in him being executed because of that reason. This should not have happened because some people don't even have control over the things that they do or impulses that they act upon because of these mentally disabled things that are going on inside of their head. They aren't being properly medicated, which means if you place someone with schizophrenia or anxiety or bipolar within a state prison or in these harsh environments, it doesn't help their condition. It actually makes their condition worse than it already is. Now that I gave 2 examples of people with mentally ill issues, I hope that you guys are persuaded. Finally, I will explain why it is unsafe to keep them in prison and explain how they also get mistreated while being there. Having a mental ill inmate in jail can cause harm to public safety. Someone with a personality disorder, for an example, it can be dangerous to himself or the people around them because he doesn't have a steady mind. 1 minute he's happy, 1 minute he's sad, 1 minute he's mad, and he can cause harm to other people. A person who is liable to cause harm to an individual or himself or even have the ability to commit suicide should not be locked away behind bars. They should be put in a home or mental home that helps their condition. Being in jail is supposed to deter crime. While these mentally ill inmates are being put in jail, it's not deterring anything. It's only making their condition worse. It's not helping them. Most prisons are understaffed and also undertrained. So there aren't many officials looking out for these inmates with these special requirements. And it is unsafe because nobody is being protected. Everything is out in the open, which leaves anything to happen. People with mental illnesses also get mistreated while being incarcerated. First, they do not get the proper attention or medication that they need to survive in such a hostile environment, and most inmates with mental illnesses get locked away in solitary confinement because of their condition and because of how it affects other people. They're not fit to be around the usual or general population. Now that my viewers are informed about why it is unsafe to have someone with a mental illness in jail and how they get treated, I will go to my conclusion. While having a mental illness, as I stated before, it can cause harm to oneself as well as others. Putting someone with a mental illness behind bars can be hazardous to general population. First, I discussed why a mentally ill person should not be in jail. Then I gave you 2 examples of when a person with a mental illness was actually incarcerated. Lastly, I explained why it is unsafe for them to be there. Now that you guys know how it is unsafe, I hope that you're well persuaded about helping change the law to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.